You so much. I am really excited to talk about this topic today. Hi, everyone. I'm MAPS coach Heidi Fore, and I love talking about rental properties. And today we are here to figure out, where do you find properties in today's market that have good cash flow? And when you have questions throughout our discussion today, you are welcome to put it in the chat, and I will leave some time at the end for questions as well. I'm going to share my screen so you can take good notes of all of the great information that I am going to give to you today. Now, this is a 30-minute webinar, and during those 30 minutes, you are going to get so much valuable content. I promise you, it's going to be worth the 30-minute investment of your time. And if you really enjoy it and want to come back in a couple weeks, I'll be delivering another webinar in a couple weeks on having success with rental properties. The next class is going to be on how to pay for them, finding the cash to pay for them, and preferably someone else's cash to pay for them that you can borrow and repay later. So I will go ahead and share my screen now, and hopefully you will see it in just a minute. Somebody put in the chat if you can share my screen. If you can see my screen. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Excellent. We are going to dive in. So I've been a realtor for a long time. I got my license in 2002, and I have always worked in the Louisville, Kentucky area. And when I started getting into investing seriously 5 years ago, I started going just a little bit outside that Louisville, Kentucky area into some of the smaller towns. And so one of the things that I'll show you today is how to analyze like all the different areas. If you're not having success in the city where you primarily live and work, I'll show you how to figure out if some cities nearby would be better for you. And for your investor clients for finding rental properties. I've been a MAPS coach for 7 years, almost 8 now, and I absolutely love it. I'm a MAPS one-on-one coach, and I'm also a MAPS group coach. One of my group coaching programs is Fund Your Life with Rental Properties, and that's exactly what I teach you how to do, is to completely pay for your life through the profit of rental properties. And that's what I teach my one-on-one coaching clients as well. I own enough rental properties to pay for my life, and I bought all of them since 2018. When everyone says there's no good deals out there, like, I'm just going to wait till prices come down. And I'm here to tell you that is not a good strategy. You've got to look now, find them now, because prices are going to continue to go up, and you want to own the properties while the prices are going up. Now, before taking action on anything in this class, I highly suggest that you talk to an attorney, an accountant, a financial planner, and your realtor if you're not a realtor yourself, because I'm not an attorney, I am not an accountant. And here is what you're going to learn today. So what you're going to walk away with: specific tools that you can use that are free to help you save time when finding and analyzing rental properties. I'm going to give you systems so they'll help you be organized and efficient. And I'm going to tell you people that can help you find your rental properties to buy that have good cash flow. So these are the things that I promise you'll get today. And again, today is just 30 minutes out of the full 8-hour course. So sometimes it's going to feel like we're water skiing, but in the 8-hour course, we scuba dive. We go deep into each of these areas. So we'll start this discussion by talking about what good cash flow is. What does cash flow mean to you? And as I said, I've been a realtor for 20 years, and what I've learned is that everybody has a different definition of what they're looking for when it comes to cash flow. There are some investors that I've spoken with that say they don't want any cash flow. They're just in this for the tax advantages and for the appreciation. Okay. And there's other people that say, I have to have a certain amount of dollars per month. One of my coaching clients, she only buys a house if it can bring her $500 per month in profit. Another one of my coaching clients looks for $200 per month in profit. So you've got to figure out what that means for you, for where you want to invest. And in some cities, it's really, really hard to find like $200 per month or $500 or $1,000 per month in cash flow because of how high the prices are, and the rents haven't caught up. The rents are still low. But in other cities, you can find deals where you're making money monthly. And those are that's what we're going to talk about today. So one of the other things you'll want to answer for yourself is how much cash on cash return annually is good enough for you as a percentage. Like, do you want to earn 7%, 9%, 10%, 13%? What is good enough for you for cash on cash return, meaning the amount of cash that you put into the property, both like maybe the down payment or if you paid cash for it, and also the closing costs and the repairs that that's also cash that you have in it. So total amount of cash, and then you're gonna take that amount and you're gonna then figure out their total amount of profit for a year, and then divide the total amount of profit for the year divided by the amount of cash that you have in it. And that is your cash on cash return. You'll also want to look at how much the monthly rent is compared to the sales price. That's a good key performance indicator, a good metric for you to look as you're looking at rental properties. What I've found typical in the areas where I invest is it's about 1% of the purchase price is what you can get per month in gross monthly rent. So as you're looking at different areas, zip codes, cities and towns, suburbs, just pay attention to that and you'll start to notice some trends in some of the places. Here's something else to consider. If you're buying a duplex or a fourplex, if half the building is vacant or not paying, could you still make money? That's another metric that you could look at when you're figuring out if something is a good deal or not. So those are just a few questions to ask yourself as you're considering buying a potential property. Here are 10 things I look at when I'm deciding if I should buy a rental property in a certain city. And even within that city in a certain zip code, and within that zip code, a certain like area, a certain place on the map that you can circle of this is where I've targeted. This is what I look for. I will look for low prices relative to market rent, where the monthly median rent is at least 0.6% of the median purchase price. That's a good one to look for. Also, you want to look at a lower number of crime incidents. That's going to affect the demand for the area. It's going to affect your turnover, how often tenants move out if they're not feeling safe. And it's going to affect how much work you're going to end up needing to do on the property. If you're in a high crime area, the property could end up getting damaged frequently and lower the amount of profit that you're getting from that. So that's something to consider. And then I want to go where the schools have a good reputation. I want to be under a 30-minute drive to a university and a hospital for two reasons. One, because that increases the demand. You have more people that want to live near a university because they either work there or they go to their school, and the hospital either have needs that they feel like they feel safer being close to a hospital, or they work at the hospital. And then look at places where the laws and the local officials are fair to landlords. All the cities that I've ever looked at are fair to renters, but not all the cities that I've looked at are fair to landlords. So you may find a place that has amazing appreciation. It's close to everything. It's an awesome location, but the laws are just not fair to property owners. And so I'm not buying in those areas. Someone wrote in here, will you be supplying the slides for this presentation? You'll get the recording, so you'll be able to watch them on the recording. Okay, and to number 6, the median household income is around 48 times the monthly median rent amount. That's a good indicator that it's affordable, that a tenant would be able to pay the rent there. So you kind of look at that. 30 to 50%. I usually buy in places where about a third to a half of the population rents their home. That's going to show that you've got a good demand for rental properties. And I look at cities where the population has grown every year for the last 3 years. I don't want to own rental properties in a city where everyone's moving out. That people are like, I'm out of here. I don't like this town anymore. And that's going to hurt demand, which then hurts what you can charge for rent if no one wants to live in that city. Look at property taxes before you buy something. It can vary significantly from city to city, state to state. So I like to look at places where taxes on investment properties are less, like 2% or less of the assessed value annually. If you are a realtor, you can look in the tax records. If you're not a realtor, ask a realtor from that area how to find that. You can look that up. That's always public information. And preferably, I want to be somewhere where the unemployment rate is less than 5% because we need our tenants to have jobs so that they can pay their rent. So those are the top 10 things that I look for. And you'll notice that I did not list appreciation on here because I'm looking for cash flow. To me, appreciation is a bonus. It's icing on the cake. That's my investment strategy. You could go to a different webinar tomorrow and the speaker will tell you that they only look at appreciation. Appreciation would be great, but I'd rather have good cash flow and a high demand area. So that's why I look at these things here on the screen. Okay, so someone's in the chat wrote a question. Please explain the 48 times income. So here's an example. If I own a house and I rent that house for $1,000 a month, $1,000 times 48 is $48,000. So if somebody's making $48,000 a year, it's very likely that they're going to be able to afford a rent of $1,000 a month. But if somebody's earning $24,000 a year, they might struggle to pay $1,000 a month because that would be like half their income. So I want to be in a place where, or to say it another way, that their rent is only going to be like a fourth to a third of their monthly income. Because they're more likely to be able to afford their rent, and you won't have problems with non-payment if what they're paying in rent is only a third to or a fourth of what they make in income. So that's why I look at that number. So if you're like, I don't even know where to get started, here's my suggestion. Pick one of these states. I think that when you come away from the coast, you're more likely to find good cash flow. The further like inland you go, especially when I've talked to investors from California and Oregon, like they say that the further inland you go, the better chance you have for cash flow. And that they've actually said sometimes you have to drive inland like 2 or 3 hours to find a place that has good cash flow from the West Coast. And I know that for the Northeast, that's true as well. You have better luck if you're trying to be sort of near a coast. Try North Carolina and South Carolina. Those tend to be, as far as like coastal states, those are the ones that I have found to have the best cash flow when I've looked around. I do own a investment property in Florida, but Florida is getting pretty expensive too. So if you're just strictly looking for cash flow and you don't need to be near a coast, then go to like the middle central part of the country, like Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Missouri. Look at, Kansas and Iowa and Oklahoma, like very predictable. And I like predictable when it comes to money. And so I like looking at that center part of the country. I've had really good luck in that area. I've put some, okay, are these states also landlord friendly? Yes, most of the cities in those states. What I have found is that sometimes you'll have a state where there will be a city, it's usually the largest city in that state, is not landlord friendly. That's just what I found, that the laws and the local officials really do things that hurt landlords, that are not good for people that want to own rental properties there. So I would look not just at a certain state, but also look at the city within that state. So here's some examples. I went and did some research for you on a few of the cities within the states that I mentioned. Someone wrote in the chat, would Orlando, Florida be a good area? Yes, I know people with rental property in Orlando, Florida. It cash flows well. So Dolton, Illinois, they have a median rent of $1,300 a month. Median purchase price is like $113,000, and 30% of the residents rent. So that would be an example of a place that about, you have that rule of about 1% of the purchase price is what you could expect in rent. I found this to be true in Louisville, Kentucky, and then the towns around Louisville, Kentucky as well. There's one particular zip code within Louisville, Kentucky, where 58% of the population rents, actually, and the median rent is $800 a month, and the median home price is like $80,000. So it's that 1% rule again. Muncie, Indiana, kind of seeing the same thing. About 1% of the purchase price is what you can expect in rent. Dayton, Ohio, same thing. About 1% of the purchase price, and about half the population rents. So these are just some examples of cities that meet the criteria that I showed you on that previous slide. And so in those areas, you can make $2,000, $3,000 a year with a loan on it at 7%. And you're getting, like 7, 8%, 9% cash on cash return. So it is possible to find cash flowing properties right now in this market, and you may have to go outside of the city where you live and normally work. So once you find a city that you think looks interesting, here's what I suggest doing. First, I suggest going to niche.com, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. You go to this niche.com and then go click on places to live, and then type in an area. So I'm just going to type in Dayton, Ohio, since we just were talking about that on the screen. And you scroll down here. You can look up, it will give you a lot of data about it. It will give you like cost of living. It will tell you like median rent amounts, median home prices. It'll give you all that information that I was talking about earlier. Then go to Mortgage News Daily, and you'll see the mortgage rates to give you an idea of, if you were to find something today, what would be a rate you could expect. Now, remember that usually a interest rate for a primary home is going to be lower than interest rate on an investment property. So whenever I'm estimating what I think the mortgage rates would be for me to buy an investment property today, I add 1% to whatever this says. So right now it's saying that the current mortgage rate is 7%. I'm going to add 1% to that as an investor. If I'm going to be buying this as an investment property, it's probably going to be 8% for me today. So that is helpful then to put into this tool. Remember, I told you, I promised you that I would give you some tools that would make your work easier to find out if something cash flows. Dealcheck.io is my favorite tool for analyzing cash flow. So you can see on the screen here, it gives you, and it's free, it gives you this cash flow report of estimated cash flow on a house that you found. So after you find your city, narrow down the places within the city, like by zip code, using this niche, niche.com, and then go look up what the interest rate is for the day, add 1% because you're an investor, put that data into DealCheck, and it will tell you what your cash flow would be on that average house in that city. And you can then find a house in that city that meets that price that you found, that you can from your DealCheck report. Okay, so I've got some questions here in the chat. What was the name on the other side? I think you're talking about this one, niche.com. And this was mortgagenewsdaily.com, and this is dealcheck.io. All right, so hopefully that answers that question. Okay, so there's another app that you might want to use, and it's Ballpark Deal. This is not as detailed as it's not as detailed as the dealcheck.io, but it's quicker. So dealcheck.io, it probably takes about 10 or 15 minutes to enter all the data because it's really, really detailed. Ballpark Deal is an app that you get on your phone, and you get it by opening up like your Safari or your Google Chrome browser and going to ballparkdeal.com and then download the app. It's free. And you just put in just the data that you see here on the screen, and the top of the screen either turns red or green, red light, green light, if it cash flows or not. And you can put in what your criteria is for it to turn up red and green. And so this is good if you're just like trying to figure out like really quickly, because you can do this in less than a minute, hit in the key data here, and then it'll tell you yes or no on the cash flow. So it saves a lot of time. Remember, I promised you tools that would save you time. This one saves a lot of time. You don't have to go put it into a spreadsheet, although I love a good spreadsheet. And this is what the deal check reports look like. So the deal check reports are much more detailed. And if you're going to actually make an offer on a property, I highly recommend using deal check before you make the offer on the property. But if you're just trying to figure out which city you should be in, and you don't want to spend like 10 minutes looking through every city, that's when I would just use the Ballpark Deal app, so it's just faster. And then once you find a property and you really want to go deep on, is it going to cash flow, then use deal check. So those are the tools that can help you save time. Here are some systems to help you save time, be more efficient. And this has been huge for me over the last 5 years when I've really gotten serious on investing. I have followed these systems. I schedule times to look for properties. And I use Google Calendar. So in my Google Calendar, I have a recurring event that comes up. And then inside that Google Calendar event in the description area, I have links to all of my saved searches from different websites. Because there's so many different websites where you can find homes. The MLS is just one of them. But there's a ton of different like auction sites and wholesaler sites and investor association sites. There's so many different places. So just create your links to your searches from all those different sites in a recurring calendar item and make that your system. And then you've blocked time to look. And when that comes up as an appointment on your calendar, you just click on it, click through your searches, see if something looks interesting, throw it through Deal Check or Ballpark Deal, and see if you want to make an offer on it. The hardest part about investing in real estate is finding the good deals. The rest of it is really just following checklists. So the next system I want to talk about is scheduling recurring networking events. Find out where networking events are happening near you. You can do that by going to meetup.com. You go to meetup.com and type in real estate and then put in the city area where you want to find events, and it will tell you where investors are meeting up. And then you just go to those events, talk to everybody in the room, tell them what you're looking for, and ask them what local lenders do they like working with. And they will love to help a new investor. So I have found a ton of value going to these networking events of other investors, and I found some good houses that I've bought that way too. You can also schedule time to drive around areas and look for houses that need some love, need some TLC, and send a letter to the seller and offer to make an offer. Say, would you consider selling your house to me if I wrote you an offer? And that you could also schedule time to send out postcards or letters to an entire area on the map. Whatever you do, be consistent with it. Don't give up. Have patience and perseverance. And sometimes you have to look through 100 different deals to find one that meets your criteria. Sometimes you have to send out 1,000 postcards to find one that you want to buy. So just don't give up. Keep looking and make time for it in your calendar. The next system that you'll definitely want to employ is having a checklist for evaluating properties. Also have checklists for after you purchase the property. Have a checklist for like after closing, what to do with the property. Have a checklist for every time you get a new tenant. Have a checklist for every time a tenant moves out. Have a checklist for property management. And if you're not going to manage your properties, then at least make sure that the property manager is using that is doing the things on your checklist. So checklists ensure that balls don't get dropped, that nothing gets forgotten, and they save time. So have checklists and procedures for each step of the rental property process. And follow your criteria. Do not buy something that doesn't meet your criteria. There will be properties that you find that are like so cute, or you really want to help out the seller, or there's some emotional reason why you want to have it. But after you've decided on your criteria, stick to it. Wait to find a property that meets your criteria. I know so many investors that that bought it anyway and regretted it later. All right, I'm going to check the comments here. Any advice for out of area investors? So yes. So the advice that I have for out of area investors is when you're putting your data into either if you're using a spreadsheet, or if you're using Ballpark Deal, or if you're using Deal Check, whatever you're using to analyze a property, calculate 10% for a property manager. If you don't know, just use that as a guess. And then if it's a long-term rental, if it's a short-term rental, I would calculate 20%. This is also a good time for me to say commissions are always negotiable, and you should ask around and see what you find. That's what my property managers have charged in the past, so that's why I picked those numbers. And someone says, is this presentation solely for single family homes? No, it's the same for 2 to 4 units. All of this is exactly the same. And everything that you're seeing on the slides here is what I've used both for a single family home and also when I have bought 2, 3, or 4 plexes. Next question is, how do you find reliable and honest property managers? I have seen too many incompetent property managers. You go to an investor networking events and you ask around, and you get people's recommendations. Get people's recommendations there. So here is a QR code. If you found this valuable, I think you would absolutely love my full length course. So here is a QR code for fundyourbiglife.com, and you will learn how to fund your life with rental properties. And in our next free session in 2 weeks, I hope you'll come back to that one. We're going to talk about how to find the money. I've got 8 different ways to fund rental properties. So today was some ideas on finding them and figuring out if they cash flow. And the next time we'll talk about how to fund them. If you would like to know all of those checklists that I talked about today, that's included in the workbook that you get in my class. It's like 100 pages of content, including those checklists for every step of the way. So you will have the confidence to go get your first property, and you'll have the confidence to manage it. You can watch the course live with your spouse, with your business partner, with your team at work, and you guys can all collaborate together. And we have a Facebook group that's for our course attendees too. So I hope that you will go to fundyourbiglife.com or scan the QR code, and that we will see you in the full 8-week class. It's 1 hour a week for 8 weeks. And I will be your guide to having success with rental properties so that you can fund your life and pay for your life with rental properties. Thanks for being here today. So glad you found it valuable, and I'll see you in the next one.